Cat and Jess Talk the Best, where we're going to be talking about IMDb's top 250 movies from April 12th, 2018. My name is Kat.
And I'm Jess.
And today we are talking about the third movie in our superhero event, which is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, a animation action adventure film from 2018. This has an 8.4 on 297,925 votes. And it is currently rated at... It is currently number 65 on the IMDb Top 250 list.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yep. So this came out in, December of the same year that we started our list. So that's why It's not on our list. But I'm glad that we're talking about it because it's a really good movie.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So the spoiler-free synopsis. Bitten by a radioactive spider in the subway, Brooklyn teenager Miles Morales suddenly develops mysterious powers that transform him into the one and only Spider-Man. When he meets Peter Parker, he soon realizes that there are many others who share his special high-flying talents. Miles must now use his newfound skills to battle the evil Kingpin, a hulking madman who can open portals to the other universes and pull different versions of Spider-Man into our world.
Yeah. That's definitely a spoiler-free one for sure.
Yeah, because there's some big things that happen in this one.
Very true.
Some fun characters.
Oh yeah, there is. So this is directed by 3 directors: Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman. It's the only film they've done together so far.
I believe they will be doing the sequel, which comes out in 2022.
Well, there you go.
I believe they'll
be their second one then.
Yeah.
It'll be their second one then together. So this stars, voice acting wise, Shamik Moore, Jake Johnson, and Haley Steinfeld.
Yep. So the ratings for this: IMDb, 29.5% of the users that have seen this rated it at a 9. And just another little stat that I came up with, 81.1% rated it 8, 9, or 10. Oh. So 80% gave it an 8 or above. I was like, holy crap. I thought that was interesting. Hold on. Hey, Sean, you need to turn that down. I can hear it. Thank you. I heard the Bones theme music. I was like, wait, what? So Metacritic, it has an 87%. Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 97% on 374 critical reviews. 2 of the Fresh, Federico Ferzan, a punk version of a story which we've seen adaptions before, but never something as bold as this. I have not really seen many, I've only seen the live action Spider-Man movies, except for the second Amazing Spider-Man. So I've never seen an adaptation like this before. So I don't know.
That's what I was curious about, Mike.
It might be another animated one. I don't know.
I'm like, but not sure.
Yeah, I really don't know. I'm not that big into Spider-Man. I like Spider-Man, but he's not my superhero.
I know, we all know which one's yours.
Charlotte Harrison. There's a perfect balance between humor and pathos, a regular stream of jokes occasionally intersected with moments of real heart. Yeah, you can see that.
I can too.
So 2 Rotten. Javier Porta-Faus, a harmless coding that simulates telling a lot, but actually narrate very little. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't agree with that.
I was like, maybe they were just overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot.
I think that might be that.
Yeah.
I'm being nice about it.
Francisco Marinero. God. The movie occurs without pause. The action is accelerated and dizzying, and other Marvel heroes are summoned to make spectators laugh. I mean, yeah, but that's the point.
I'm like, it's called Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah,
so...
it's like, that's like the multiverse. What do you think's gonna happen? I feel like this person didn't know what they were getting into.
Probably.
So the consensus: Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse matches bold storytelling with striking animation for a purely enjoyable adventure with heart, humor, and plenty of superhero action. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
That's a good consensus there.
Yeah. So the budget was $90 million. In the U.S., it made $190,241,310. Internationally, it made $185,299,521 for a worldwide total of $375,540,831, which is crazy. I think during this entire time I have hardly ever seen a movie have America beat the international totals. It's hardly ever happens because there's so many countries. There's so many. So it's just interesting to see that.
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often.
No. So the opening weekend, it made $35,363,376. It's a decent opening.
Oh, yeah.
And its top lifetime gross is number 597. That's pretty high.
I think so.
So, the awards. This did win 1 Oscar. It had 75 other awards and 53 other nominations. So we will talk about the Golden Globes, Oscars, and BAFTAs. Because you can just guess what the other 75 are based on those. So, it won Best Animated Feature Film at the Oscars, and Best Motion Picture Animated at the Golden Globes, and Best Animated Feature Film at the BAFTA Awards. So I wonder what the rest of the awards were.
I wonder.
You know, I think a bunch of animation.
Probably, you know.
I will say
all the animation ones.
This is probably one of the best animated movies I have ever seen. Like, animation-wise. Because I know something that I complain about a lot is, like, the background.
Yes.
They do so much with this one. It's insane.
Yeah.
So, initial thoughts.
I'll go first. So I've been wanting to watch this one for a while because I was like, okay, it's Spider-Man. I'm usually into Spider-Man, so I was like, okay. I just never had anyone like wanting to go with me or see it. I'm like, oh, okay. And then so I just waited, and then you decided to pick it for one of your movies, and I'm like, yes, finally, I get an excuse to watch this now. And I watched it, and I loved it. Yeah. I did. I freaking loved this movie. Like, I was like, I was a bit overwhelmed. I was like, oh my God, there's so much going on. And there's like, if you're not paying attention, you might get a little lost. Yeah. Just a little bit. And so I was having to go back and forth as I was writing and like watching it. And I hope I caught everything, but I don't know.
I was going to say, if not, I probably did because the amount of times I've seen this movie.
And it's like, yeah, and like animation-wise, it's like, wow.
It's like a living comic book.
it is like a comic book, and I'm just like, I was blown away by it. I'm like, no wonder. After I watched it, I was like, no wonder this beat so many other animated films.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Um,
I love this movie.
I want to see what it was up against. I know it was up against quite a few good ones. Okay, so the movies that it was up against, we had talked about this last time. What me and you just talked about it was The Incredibles 2, which was amazing. Love that movie. Isle of Dogs, which I haven't seen yet, but I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch it. Mirai, which I believe is Japanese.
I think so.
And then Ralph Breaks the Internet. So it was up against some good movies.
It's like you did Ralph last year.
Yeah, I did for our Disney event last year. And you did the first Incredibles for one of our superhero events.
I did.
Our one last year, actually.
Yeah. It was last year.
But yeah. The animation in this is amazing. Do you have any other thoughts?
Nope. I really don't.
So I remember seeing this, I think, a week before it came out. Like, pretty sure it was a week before, because PlayStation, because this is a Sony picture, it was produced by Sony, they offered every person that had PlayStation Plus access to a free showing of this movie to like get interest in it, because nobody really knew what it was going to be about or anything. So they wanted people to go see it to like spread word and be like, hey, you need to go see this movie. So I got 2 free tickets, because that's how many you were allowed to get with your PlayStation Plus, was 2 free tickets. I went and saw it, and I remember waiting in the theater, because since it was a free showing, your seats weren't guaranteed, so I needed to get there early to get a good seat, because it wasn't like I could reserve my seat, because I didn't pay for it. I also remember the theater messed up and had it where they were selling tickets, so it was already sold out for the people that got the free tickets, and then the theater was selling tickets to it, and so there was like this big disaster for it. But I mean, I got to see it because I was there 2 hours early, and I made the line myself. I was like, line's right here. Yep. But I just remember being blown away. I thought it was absolutely amazing. Sean was not able to go with me because I think Booth was sick. So he stayed home with Booth, but I had these free tickets. I was like, I'm not giving up going to see a free movie. So Sean stayed home with him, and I went and saw this. And I got home and I told Sean, I was like, as soon as this comes out, we are going to see it because it's amazing. And I actually even went and got the 4K steelbook of this when it came out, because I was just like blown away by how beautiful it was and how good of a story, because we haven't really, at least in the Spider-Man movies I've seen, gotten a Miles Morales story. And I tend to like the secondary versions of major superheroes better than most of the first ones. Like, I like Superboy better than Superman.
You're not a fan of Superman anyways.
Yeah. But, I mean, I don't like Superboy much either, but I like Superboy better than Superman, so. I was really excited to see a Miles Morales story, because I knew kind of who he was, but I didn't really know enough, so I thought that it was cool that we'd get like an introduction to him and like him learning to use his powers and everything. So I was thrilled with this movie. Thought it was great. And that's why I picked it, because I enjoyed it so much. But yeah, that's all I got.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
That was your warning. If you haven't watched the film yet, then stop listening and come back after you've watched it. So it's really cool. We get like this Peter Parker intro. He's like, I'm the one and only Spider-Man, which is funny.
He's like, the one and only. It's like,
Yep.
okay, whatever you say, Peter.
You know, we already know who Peter Parker is. Like, if you know who Spider-Man is, even if you just have like the general idea of who Spider-Man is, you know Peter Parker is Spider-Man. So we get that little intro, and then we see this kid. He's like just sitting there. He's got his headphones on. He's just jamming out. And then he's like packing up for school because he lives in New York, because obviously that's where Spider-Man lives. And he's going to, I guess, this charter school, but it's one that he has to live there.
Yeah, it's like
he
a
has,
private school.
Yeah. So it's like a dorm and everything. So he has to pack all of his stuff up for the week, and then he can go home on the weekends, is what it seems like. And so he's heading out. His parents are like making sure he didn't forget anything. Like, got all your books, got everything you need.
I love how his mom spoke to him in Spanish half the time, and I was like, yes.
Well,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's the thing I like is his mom is Mexican, and so that's where the Morales comes from. Because I don't think that his mom and his dad are married, I don't think. Because his dad's last name is something else. But
Yeah.
they live together, and they're all like a big family and everything. I just don't remember what his dad's last name is.
His dad's a cop.
Yes, his dad is a cop.
Yeah.
Davis. His dad's last name is Davis.
Okay.
So yeah, his mom is where the
just cracked it up
Morales
just now.
comes from.
So if he had his dad's last name, he'd be Miles Davis. I'm like, oh, that's funny.
But yeah, so he's heading out and heading to school and everything, and he likes to put stickers on things, like little stickers that he makes. So I guess he gets like the little sticker paper and then draws on it. So he's a really good artist, and then he sticks them all over town. But he like sticks one up and then falls right in front of the cop car, and the cop car happens to be his dad. So his dad takes him all the rest of the way to school, and then of course does the dad thing and embarrasses him.
Of course. And like all throughout the drive, he's like complaining about Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, masked vigilante.
Yeah. So he gets to school and drops him off, and he's like, you have to say it back. You have to say I love you. And I'm just like, that's so funny, because that's definitely a dad thing to do.
It's like, come on, say it back. He's like,
Yeah.
he's the big old speaker and everything.
Yeah.
Like, that is just great.
Yeah. And so he's like going about his life in school, and he's talking to his teacher, and his teacher is like disappointed in him because he got a 0 on a true or false test. She's like, do you know what someone who had no idea what any of the answers were would get on a true or false test if they just guessed? He's like, a 50.
And she's like, exactly. And she's like, she's like, yeah, because you knew all the answers and purposely did it wrong.
Yeah. Because he wants to quit and he wants to go back to his old school. So he doesn't want to be at this private school.
It's like, even though he's super smart.
Yeah.
So.
And then she assigns him an essay about
What he wants to be.
Yeah. And so, because he's like, oh, I don't want to do it. And she's like, it's not about whatever the subject that they were talking about. It's about this.
I think it was like physics or something.
Yeah. I think it is a physics class. And I'm like, wow, physics? Because he seems like he's probably a freshman or a sophomore, if that.
Physics.
Yeah. I'm like, ugh.
It's like, no thank you. No thank you.
I'd never even thought of taking physics. The highest I ever got in math was trigonometry, which was really hard.
Yeah, I'm not for that physics life. No.
No.
Like it's
Physics
so much
is like math and science combined, and science was not my forte, but math I was really good at. So.
It's like I did calculus. That's how high I went.
They offered calculus, but I was like, no, I'm going to do trigonometry instead. I was like, that sounds easier.
Well, the thing is with my calculus teacher, she made us brownies half the time. She made us food a lot, so I loved the class.
It was, when I took the trigonometry, it was my second year in the new school, and so I was like, didn't care. I was like, I want whatever the easiest class that I can take is. And the easiest class that they had for math was trigonometry. I'm like, cool, I'll go with that. Because since I was in the advanced classes before I moved, I had to be in the advanced classes when I moved again, or like after I moved. So they made me take the higher up classes. Like I had to take AP biology, and I was like, didn't want to, but I had to. But anyways, so he's like trying to write his essay, and he can't really think of anything. So he is like drawing in his notebook instead, and then he decides to go visit his Uncle Aaron, who is played by Mahershala. I don't ever know how to say his name. Mahershala Ali.
He's a fantastic actor.
He is.
The man won back-to-back supporting actor Oscars, for God's sakes.
Yeah, he's a great actor. I actually just watched Hidden Figures this week, and he was in that. And while it wasn't even a really big role, I was like so convinced. I'm always so convinced by him. Octavia Spencer was in that movie as well.
I know.
But I watched it because the Catherine lady had passed away this week, so that's why I watched it, because I didn't really know. And talk about smart. Those ladies. Super freaking smart.
I was like, speaking of smart people, there's some smart people there.
Yeah. But anyways, again. So yeah, he goes and visits his Uncle Aaron, and he's talking to him about school, and his uncle asks him if there's any girls that he's interested in, and like gives him girl advice and stuff. And it's so funny. It's just, I really liked the dynamic between the two of them. I thought it was great as like an actual uncle-nephew relationship that they were able to portray in the short amount of time that we got to see the two of them together on screen.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah. But so they get done talking about that, and Uncle Aaron asks him if he's still drawing, and he says yeah, but his dad doesn't really like him to do like graffiti or anything. His dad always like knows if it's him, if he sees it out in the city. And so Uncle Aaron's like, well, I have a spot he won't ever find. So he takes him out there. And this part was really cool. I loved all the colors. I mean, the whole movie, I love the colors. But I loved this part, like him doing the graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
Really cool.
It was really cool.
And the spider. You can see the spider coming around. And it's like a funky looking spider, too. It's like all red and blue. And it kind of looks like mechanical, almost.
Yeah,
like a little robot spider. Which, I mean, there's a possibility it was. I don't know.
Yeah. He's just, like, painting about all this. And, of course, you see the spider coming down. And it gets on him.
Yeah. I mean, you already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
He gets bit.
But
it's like... it's, like, so anticlimactic.
He's, like, gets bit, and it's just, like, silent. And he's like, ugh. It's like, he hits it and, like, goes away. It's like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that was great.
In the very first Spider-Man movie I watched, the one that was in the Tobey Maguire one.
Yeah.
He, like, gets bit, and it does, like, all of this science-y stuff. Like, goes into his blood and his DNA and, like, changes it. And in this one, he just, like, smacks the spider off.
He's like, ugh, go away.
Yeah. But then they head home and stuff. And then it's the next morning, and of course we get the Spidey senses and the super strong and the not understanding why your pants aren't fitting. And then it's also really cool because his, like, thoughts are playing out in the bubbles, like in comic books.
It's like, it doesn't show up until after he gets bit, which I really liked.
Yeah. Which is super cool. It's like a really awesome change. Because also, before that, there's some... after he gets bit, there's, like, fuzziness every now and then. But before he gets bit, it's not there. So it's like a change in the animation style after he gets bit. Because it's not always there, the little fuzziness. I don't know if you noticed it.
I did, actually.
Yeah. There's occasionally that fuzziness, and I know they did it on purpose because it's not always there. There's, like, certain moments when they did it, and I thought it was really cool that they included that after he got bit. But he doesn't understand why his pants don't fit. They're, like, super short. And I'm like, well, you're Spider-Man now. That's why they don't fit. Like, obvious explanation.
And when he gets to school, he runs into this girl.
Yep.
She's blonde. Her name's Wanda.
Yeah. Well, she says...
that's what her name. She introduces herself as Wanda. Yeah. We don't know anything yet.
She starts off, she goes, my name's Gwanda. Yeah. Like, she's gonna say her real name, and then she doesn't. Because she's like, oh, I can't say that yet.
She's like, whoopsie-daisy.
So he's like,
I was confused. I was like, wait a minute. Is she trying to say Gwen?
Yeah. Yeah, she was gonna say Gwen, but then she's like Wanda instead, which I thought was funny. So she goes, Gwanda, and she's like, yeah, I'm from South Africa. I'm like, what? She's like trying to cover it up.
And like, he tries to, like, his uncle is teaching him how, like, to talk to girls and, like, kind of flirt with them. He's like, go for the shoulder touch.
Yeah.
He is trying to go for the shoulder touch, but instead he gets his hand stuck on her hair.
Yeah. And I remember seeing on Facebook not long after either this movie came out or when the, like, Blu-ray 4K came out, they were playing the trailer to advertise it on Facebook, and someone was complaining about her haircut in the comments underneath the trailer. And so I commented on it. I'm like, just watch the movie. It explains why her hair is like that. Like, and plus, it doesn't matter why her hair is like that. Anyways, they can have their hair however they want. That's a really big deal right now, is people having their hair however they want.
It's like,
so I'm like,
no one cares.
Yeah,
you should not care.
It's hair. Do what you want with it.
Like, it grows back, you know that?
Yeah. But I just thought it was really stupid that someone's sitting there complaining because half of her head is shaved. And it explains it right here. Like, his hand is stuck, so half of her head has to get shaved because of where his hand is stuck at. And she is pissed. Which is hilarious. She's so mad at him.
I was like, well, yeah. I mean, I don't think she intended to have her hair cut.
Yeah, definitely not. But so after he gets his hand shaved off of her head, he leaves the little nurse's office, I guess, and the security guard says, "Hey, I know you snuck out of your room last night," and like starts chasing him, and he's like booking it, and he goes right into the security office.
Like, smooth.
Yep, like, good job. Good job. And then, so the security guard comes into the office, but he's not in there. Miles isn't in there. So, it shows him outside, sticking to the wall. And then we get the whole comic book scene replay, which is like the same scene of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man when he first gets his powers and is like learning how to use it, which is super funny. Which I've never read a Spider-Man comic book, so I don't know if that's exactly how it happens there, but my guess is it does happen like that in the comic book, which is awesome.
I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I have no idea. The only comic books I've read are Batman and Harley Quinn and Suicide Squad. So, and Batgirl.
Anything related to Batman.
Yeah. But yeah, he's like trying to stick to the wall, and then he doesn't. It's like not working at first, but he's like, "Come on, stick!" And he finally sticks and everything. And then he's like gonna jump across the thing, but he's like, never mind. I'm not gonna do that. And so he runs all the way back down, and then runs up another set of stairs to a smaller building, and he's like, "This is better." That's super funny. And then he's like running somewhere. I don't remember where he's headed to, but he like almost gets hit by a car, but he like flips over it all fancy and cool. And then he's headed down to the subway, and he's like looking around for the spider that bit him, because he kind of recognizes the powers as stuff that Spider-Man can do. So he's like, and the comic book that he found said Spider-Man on the front. So he's like kind of guessing. So he goes and looks for the spider, and he's like looking at it, and it kind of messes up. Like it does this funky thing. And later in the movie, we find out that that's called glitching.
Every time I think of glitch, I think of Penelope.
Yeah. Well, she does the same thing.
She glitches.
Yeah. So, yeah, the spider glitches. And he's, like, super confused. But then his spider senses start going off. And he sees Spider-Man fighting Green Goblin. Pretty sure it's Green Goblin, because that thing was huge.
I was like, yeah. I'm like, there's Green Goblin, there's Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
I can't think of the rest of them.
I think that one was Green Goblin, because I'm pretty sure he said Green Goblin.
I don't know, I just wrote down Goblin, and I was like, it's one of them. I don't know.
Yeah. But I liked the design of this one. Except for goblins aren't that big. So.
No, they're not.
But I thought it was funny. So, of course, while Spider-Man is fighting Green Goblin, Miles is, like, trying to get out of the way and, like, watch at the same time. And so the fight's going on and everything, and, at one point, whatever Miles is standing on gets, like, thrown aside, or something happens like that, and he's falling, and Spider-Man saves him, and then they have their, like, dual Spidey sense.
He's like, oh, you're just like me. Okay.
Yeah. And he's like, well, I don't want to be. He's like, well, too bad.
Too bad, kid.
And he's like, well, I'll show you the ropes. And then we get the purple guy, which is what I called him, like, the entire time. I don't remember exactly what his name is, but I'm just going to stick with purple guy.
It says it later.
Yeah, it says it once, but I don't remember, and I don't... Oh, Prowler. There it is. I found it. Prowler is the purple guy. He shows up.
Yes.
And Kingpin and the Green Goblin are all there. And Kingpin's, like, turning on this big, huge machine, because they're in, like, this big, weird tunnel-like room thing with these, like, vortex shooting thingies. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah, I know. It is hard to explain. It's in my head. I see it.
Yeah. It, like, gets turned on, and there's all this kind of craziness happens in the little vortex room, and also throughout the city we kind of see all kinds of craziness, like buildings turning into funky shaped things, because what's happening is this vortex thing is, like, summoning the other the other universes in the multiverse.
Yeah, and Spidey got stuck in the middle of all that.
Yeah, so he's, like, all weird and everything. It's, like, funky. And then there's, like, this big explosion that happens, and everybody gets kind of shot all over the place, and Miles ends up finding Peter kind of laying on the ground, and he gives him the override key, which is what is going to be used to shut this machine down completely. Like, if they don't get that into the, like, little port, then this thing can be turned on at any point. But then Kingpin is coming, and he's like talking to Spider-Man because Miles runs off, and Spider-Man is like a little worse for the wear.
Just a bit.
And then Kingpin kills him.
Yeah, he like smashes him down. I'm like, oh my gosh, that happened. I was like in shock. I'm like, what? I'm like, this is too early for this kind of craziness.
Yeah. But it makes sense later, like in a little bit, because of all the other people they bring in.
Yeah.
And so they hear Miles like kind of make a little noise or something. And so Kingpin sends Prowler after Miles, and there's this like big chase. He's trying to get away and everything. And he finally does get away. And he gets to his parents' house. And
they're like, why are you home?
Yeah.
Are you freaked out because there was like an earthquake?
Yeah, that's what he says. Or that's what they ask him, and he's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's what it was.
Yeah. And he asks his dad, does he really hate Spider-Man? He's like, I don't hate him, I just wish he would follow the laws, I guess. It's the same vigilante cop relationship. Like, the cops appreciate him somewhat, but they don't want him doing their job for them.
Pretty
basically.
much.
And it happens with every superhero that's a vigilante.
Yeah.
So, then there's the news report we see Miles' parents watching about Spider-Man, and that's where we get the information. Mary Jane talking about
Peter.
Yeah, Peter being dead. Because I think this universe knew that Peter was Spider-Man. Or
If they
something
didn't,
like
they
that.
know now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, either way, if they didn't know, they know now, so. And Mary Jane, I think, Mary Jane is played by Zoe Kravitz, who we had before in Mad Max.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Got a repeat person here. And so then the next day, everybody's mourning because, they lost a big person in New York. Like, he saved New York so many times, so everybody's all sad and everything. So the comic book shops, or not the comic book shops, the costume stores are selling the Spider-Man suits. And this is where we get our Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah,
And
he's the one who sells the costume to Miles.
Yeah, this one was really hard watching it in the theaters because it was right after Stan Lee died. So seeing it in the theater, it was super hard because he's like, we all miss him. And it was hard to watch. Like, I'm pretty sure half the theater at that point was like sniffling and crying because of it.
I can see why.
Yeah. Because, he had a cameo in every Marvel movie for the most part.
Yes.
Like, that was his thing. He loved doing the cameos, and he got a cameo in this one, too. But yeah, he buys himself a little Spidey suit and then goes to Mary Jane's public speech. Oh, and then this is where the, whoops, I forgot. This is where the building, where he, like, goes up the building and, like, runs up and thinks about jumping across and then goes back down because he doesn't want to do it, and then he goes to a shorter building. I said it in the wrong spot. So he falls.
And he messes up that thing that Peter had given him.
Yeah. And then later on, he goes to the graveyard and is, like, talking to the gravestone, Peter's gravestone, they're like, I don't know what to do. I broke that thing. Like, how am I supposed to stop them? How am I supposed to fix it? And someone's like sneaking up behind them, and it looks like the Prowler because they have their coat thingies up, their collar on their coat up. And so he shocks him. Miles shocks the person that's sneaking up behind him. Like, that's not a Spider-Man power.
That is not. That's new.
Yeah, that's a new power. And we get the Spider-Man intro again.
And this is Peter B. Parker.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
Peter B. Parker.
B. Parker. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a different universe, different Peter Parker. And he's talking about how everything was great and stuff, and then his life just kind of started falling apart. And he's a little chunky. He's got a little bit of a beer belly going on there. We see. And then he talks about how there was this weird hole, and it pulled him into this world. And then the police show up at the graveyard, and they're like, hey, drop the hobo or something like that. Because Miles is like running off with Peter, like carrying him. And then he's like trying to use Peter's web shooters, but he doesn't know how. And so he like gets stuck to the side of a train.
I'm just flying around attached to it.
Yep. And so the police are calling for backup. And I'm going to save this line for later, but it's hilarious. I loved that line. But they're like trying to chase him and stuff and get him because they think he's killed this person and just like running away with him. But they end up somewhere. I don't remember where they go. But the Peter B. Parker wakes up.
And he's tied up to a punching bag.
Yep. It's like some abandoned apartment or something. And, or no, it's not an abandoned apartment. They're in Uncle Aaron's apartment because we see the punching bag later when Miles goes and visits again. He like hides behind the punching bag. So they're at Uncle Aaron's apartment. But Miles is like questioning him, asking him, like, if you're Peter, why is that other Peter dead? Like, he's confused, and then he kind of like tells him, I was brought here by that machine thing, and all kinds of stuff. And then Miles asks him if he can teach him, and he's like, here's your first lesson. Always watch the hands, not the mouth. And he like somehow managed to get untied from the punching bag.
And he like tries to leave, but like he starts glitching. Mm-hmm. And so
then,
walking down the side of a building. And that was like, oh, it's such a Spider-Man thing.
Yeah. So he like falls. And so Miles like is kind of sitting there pouting.
He's like, I love it. And like that line is one of my favorites, so I won't say it.
Yeah.
He just sitting there pouting, and he's like, okay, fine, I'll help you.
Yeah.
Air quote, help.
Yeah. So they go to like this little burger joint, and Miles is telling about the collider, and Peter's like, well, yeah, I'm going to use that to go home. That's what that like vortex thing was that pulled everybody and like all the things and this Peter into this world is the collider. And so they're talking about that and like how they need to stop it and stuff. And their first plan is to go to Alchemex. And he's like, well, how are we going to get there? Are we going to web swing all the way there? And he's like, no, I just ate 2 burgers. He's like, why would I do that?
It's like, so they ride the bus.
Yeah, they ride the bus, and Peter B. Parker is like dressed in pajamas, basically.
Oh,
he's got sweatpants.
And like his Spider-Man stuff, but he's got sweatpants on the bottom. Like, you're so lazy.
Yeah. And then Miles is in his Spider-Man costume that doesn't even fit. So they're a funny looking pair. Them two. But so they head out to Alchemix and stuff, and they're watching because Peter is telling Miles like the plan. He's like, I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna get on the computer, I'm gonna get the files to make another. He calls it a goober.
Oh, I know, the goober.
Which is what? Funny. That's what because he couldn't ever remember. Said he couldn't remember what the thing was called, so he called it a goober.
Goober. God.
I'm like that works. I call it a whatchamacallit, or the thingy.
The thingy-majigger.
Yeah, the thingy-majigger, just that thing. That thing is what it is a lot of the time. Like, it'll be a movie, or it'll be a song, or a restaurant. I will just call it, that thing. Mm-hmm. When I'm just trying to explain it. And I'm like, it's got that person in it, and it's that thing, or it's got that food. Like, that's just how I do it.
You just have to learn to decipher.
Yeah. Sean's got it down pretty good. He understands.
I'm on my way.
Yeah, you get there pretty quick.
Yeah. It might take me a while.
Yeah. But so they're like watching the entrance, and they're like making up their plan, and then Spider-Man goes in, and so Miles is sitting outside just kind of watching. And then Kingpin shows up. So Miles is like, oh no, I have to go inside and tell Spider-Man. So he goes inside and is like climbing around in the air vents.
Yeah.
The air ducts. And tells Peter that Kingpin has showed up. And then they overhear a doctor and Kingpin talking, and Kingpin's like threatening the doctor, saying she has like 24 hours to finish the collider and make it work.
It's like Peter B's like, watch, he's gonna tell her 24 hours. Just wait. He's like, it's the same thing every time.
Yep.
Like, he's done this too many times.
Yep. It's so funny. And so they leave the little office, and so Peter and Miles go into the office, and they're like trying to get on the computer to get the goober working.
I love how Miles gets stuck trying to get down, and he doesn't know how to unstick.
Yeah.
And so he starts singing to himself to relax. I'm like, man, I know that feeling. I do that too.
Yeah. And then the doctor comes in, and they like freak out for a sec, and then all of a sudden Miles is invisible.
It's like, oh, he could do that? Okay.
Yeah. And so Spider-Man is talking to the doctor while Miles is like doing the computer stuff, and he's like, I don't know what to do. So he just takes the monitor and the computer and leaves.
And like, she had strapped Peter B down. She's examining him and everything. She's like, oh. She's like, have you been glitching and all that? She figured out
it's not this universe's Peter, because she knows he's dead. So she's like, what universe are you from? And then we find out that this doctor is Doc Ock.
It's Doc Ock.
Which I thought was really cool. I've never seen that before. But I think it was really well done. It was a really well done version of Doc Ock.
I've
only seen like 3 versions of Doc Ock, so.
It's a good version.
Yeah, I really liked it. But somehow they both managed to get away, and they're like running through the building, and half the time Miles is invisible, the other half the time he's not, because he can't control it. And it's funny, they run through the cafeteria, and Peter takes a bagel, and then all the scientists like look up and notice it's Spider-Man, and they're like kind of sit there for a sec, and then they all like pull weapons out, and one of them's like, he's got a bagel. I was like, oh my god.
And they all just like start shooting at him. It's like, oh, fun.
Yep. And so they're chasing, like they're running through the woods and stuff, and Miles is not very good at web swinging yet. No.
I mean, like, it's like what, like day 2 maybe of being a spider?
Yeah, this is probably day 2 of being Spider-Man, and his first day, like, he just got the gadget to do the web swinging, so he's like, I have no idea what to do, so he's, like, running, and Peter's like, you're going to die.
You gotta start.
So he, is, like, learning to swing, but Peter glitches, and so they drop the computer, and they're both falling, and then we get Spider-Gwen saving the day.
Oh, yeah.
I love her suit, too.
Oh, yeah. Love that suit. It's great. Because it's not your typical Spider-Man suit, which is normally blue and red.
Yeah.
This is like a black and white one.
Yeah, it's black, white, and pink, and it's got a hood. It's because it's got her mask, but then it's also got a hood, too, which is really cool. And then the same, like, Peter Parker intro that we got for the original Peter Parker and this Peter Parker, we get a Spider-Gwen intro. So, Gwen Stacy was Peter Parker's best friend, and then she got bitten by the radioactive spider instead of him. And then in her universe, her Peter Parker died. And so it was like this big devastating thing. And then she one day got pulled over into this universe. And kind of the same thing. Just happened to her instead.
Exactly.
And then we get Kingpin. We get Kingpin's story about why he needs the collider. His family was killed in a car accident. I don't know if it says it exactly now, but his family was killed, and he wants to use the collider to bring them back, but not specifically his family. He doesn't care. He just wants some version of his family.
Yeah, he was
from any universe.
He was fighting Spider-Man when his family walked in, and they were just like, nope, we're done.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then they were killed in a car crash after they left.
Yes.
That's what happened. I was like, I don't remember exactly.
And so
I know they died in a car crash.
Kingpin, pretty much just blamed Spider-Man for it.
Yeah, even though it was his fault.
It's your own damn fault.
Yeah. Like, maybe if you weren't a bad guy.
Exactly.
But yeah, he's like, he wants to use the collider to bring a version of his family to this world, to this universe. And then we see Spider-Gwen, Peter Parker, and Miles all on a bus back to New York. And they're going to go to Aunt May's house. Because, of course, that's where you have to go.
You gotta go
And so they pull up, and she's like, I don't want any more condolences today. Just leave me alone.
That's it. She's trying to open the door, and then she sees him. She's like, oh.
Yeah.
You're not from here, are you?
Well, and she recognizes Peter. She's like, you're just a different universe.
She's like, you're fatter.
Yeah. Which is hilarious. And then she takes him out to the shed, which is the Spidey cave. It's not the Bat cave. The Spidey cave. And we get to see all the Spider-Man suits. And I thought it was so cool, all these Spider-Man suits. Because one of them in there, the PlayStation 4 game, they have that Spider-Man suit in there, which is really cool.
Oh.
And then they have a whole bunch of them in there. Like, they have, they had the stealth suit. They had, like, the neon green one. And the only reason I know what any of these are is because they were all in the Spider-Man game. But I thought it was really cool, all the suits and everything. And then we get introduced to more Spidey people.
It's like there's Spider-Man Noir.
Played by Nicolas Cage.
I love the Noir one. Not gonna lie.
The Noir one's funny.
That cracked me up. Then there's like this anime one.
Yeah.
Her name's Penny.
Kimiko Glenn plays that one.
And then there's the pig.
Yep, Spider-Ham.
Spider-Ham.
Who I like to call Spider-Pig.
I call him Spider-Pig. I don't care.
Because the only thing I can think of when I see a pig dressed in a spider suit is that one scene from The Simpsons, like the only scene I've ever seen from The Simpsons. Spider-Pig, Spider-Pig. does whatever a spider pig does.
That's even
Can
from
you swing
the movie.
from a web? Is it from the movie?
From the movie.
That's literally the only thing I've ever seen of The Simpsons. And it's hilarious.
That is
so
from
when
the
I saw
movie.
him, I was like, it's Spider Pig! He does whatever Spider Pig does.
It's like you just change the words of the Spider-Man theme song to that.
Except for he goes, can he swing from a whip? No, he can't, because he's a pig. Because he's a pig. I was like, oh my god. Yeah, that's literally the only thing I've ever seen in The Simpsons.
I was like, that's just
fun.
The movie. There's
it was funny. It's still The Simpsons.
I mean, Simpsons has been going for 30 years now?
30 years, yeah. But yeah, then we get all of their little intros and everything, which is super cool. And they all came with the collider, and they're talking about how they're going to stop it, and they need one of them to stay there to shut down the collider after they all go home. And Miles is like, well, I'll do it. Because they all glitch. Except for Miles, because Miles is from this universe.
He's like, I'll do it. And they all group together like, I don't know about this.
Yeah. They're like, and Peter is like telling him, hey, I think he can do it because he's got this shocky power, which he can't do on command because they try to get him to do it.
He's like, he can turn invisible, but not on command.
Because he hasn't learned to master his powers yet.
There's the big word, yet.
Yeah. But, so they're all, trying to teach him and everything, but it's just, a big hound fest. They're all...
It's too much.
Yeah, and so he doesn't get up. And then so they all kind of huddle up and talk about him again. And at this point, he does turn invisible and he leaves because he's upset. And he's got a voicemail from his dad because his dad found out he wasn't at school or something like that.
Yeah.
And then we see his dad called his Uncle Aaron because they're looking for him, and they're like, we need your help looking for him because we know he likes to hang out with you. So they think there's a possibility he might be with Uncle Aaron. And I mean, kind of he is with Uncle Aaron because he goes to Uncle Aaron's place because he wants to talk to him because that's where he goes for advice. He needs some help and he doesn't really know what to do. And so while he's there, Prowler shows up. And he kind of senses that someone is there in the room, Prowler does, so he's looking around, but Miles has turned invisible because he's scared. Because he thinks that Prowler followed him there. But turns out, Prowler is Uncle Aaron.
Yeah. It's oh, snap.
Yeah, I was not expecting that when I watched this. I was not.
I wasn't either, but this was my first viewing, so.
Yeah. They did that really well.
I'm now I'm going to look for it. Some clues. When I watch it again.
There are a couple clues, but they're not major.
That's why I said. It was my first show, and I just had to get story down.
Yeah. It's really just that Aaron says he has to go out of town for a couple of days. Because, the voice has changed when he has the Prowler costume on and everything. But Miles takes off, and Prowler chases him and everything. And and it jumps back to the other spider people.
Yes.
And Penny has made another little goober thing. Spider-Man Noir is fascinated with the Rubik's Cube. And so
he can't see. He's like, what color is this?
Yeah.
What color is this? Because in his area, there's just black and whites and grays.
Yeah, it's all black and white, which is hilarious.
So technically, he's colorblind.
Yeah.
That cracked me up. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it's funny. The Rubik's Cube. And then Miles shows up because they're all still hanging out at Aunt May's. And he's telling them about Prowler. And of course, as he's talking about it and trying to warm them, all the bad guys show up. So we've got Prowler, we've got
Doc Ock.
Doc Ock, Scorpion, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And they're all, like, fighting and everything, and there's this big, huge showdown, and they're, like, tearing Aunt May's house apart, so she's, of course, pissed off. She starts joining in the fight to get them out the house.
She's like, get out of my house.
Yeah. And then at one point, Prowler is, like, up on the roof chasing Miles, and he catches him, and so Miles takes his mask off, because since he knows who Prowler is, he wants to stop him from killing him. Like, he wants to stop Prowler from killing him. So, Kingpin's, like, over there telling Prowler to kill Spider-Man. And he doesn't. Like, he's about to let him go and put him down. So, Kingpin shoots him.
Yes.
And so, Miles takes him away. And he takes him to an alley somewhere in the middle of New York. And it just so happens to be that his dad is driving by, like, right after Uncle Aaron dies. And he sees Spider-Man and, like, tries to tell him to stop. And then, of course, he turns invisible and runs off. And then the dad figures out that it was his brother, Aaron. And
he calls it, he's like, there's a new Spider-Man.
Yeah. And he's like, I want Spider-Man. Because he thinks Spider-Man killed his brother. Which it wasn't. It was Kingpin.
It's like, he figures that out later, but, I mean,
yeah.
The shock of everything, finding your brother dead in an alleyway.
Yeah, and of course he just saw Spider-Man, like, leaning over him.
So he kind of put the two together.
Yeah. So Miles goes back to his room, and he's super mad and, like, upset and everything. And the other spider people show up, and they're, like, trying to comfort him. And they're all, like, they've all lost someone. Like, Gwen lost her Peter. All kinds of, I don't remember. But they all say something, like, someone that they lost. And so they're like, this helps you figure it out. Like, this is your motivation. And then the roommate comes in, and they all jump up to the ceiling, and they're, like, trying to sneak around to where he can't see them.
And I love how, like, the pig just, like, starts talking. He's like, he's like, do pigs talk in this universe?
Because I don't want to freak him out.
I don't want to freak him out. And of course, they don't talk, so kid freaks out.
Yep, so he passes out and everything. And the other Spideys leave because they're like, we've got to go get this done, and I don't think you're going to be able to do it, kid. And so Peter is talking about how he's going to sacrifice himself to let everyone else go home. But he talks to Miles first. He's like, I'm going to give you a shot. I need you to turn invisible. I need you to shock me. I need you to do something on command. And he can't. And all the others are listening outside. So Peter ties him up, and then they all leave. And then his dad shows up, and the door is locked, so he can't get in. But he's, like, knocking on the door, trying to talk to him. And he's talking about how he wishes that they had a better relationship, and he's super upset because this is literally just after Uncle Aaron, like, he found Uncle Aaron. And so he gives, like, his little speech about, he doesn't quite tell about Uncle Aaron, but he says something bad happened. And then he's like, I know that you're in there, and I know you're listening. And he finishes, and he says, I love you, but don't worry, you don't have to say it back. And he leaves. And then Miles gets a little determined look on his face and learns how to use his powers.
So, like, yeah, he uses electricity to get him out of the web that he's tied to.
Yep. So he goes back to Aunt May's, and she was waiting for him. And she's like, I knew you would do it. I believed in you the whole time. You had to figure it out for yourself. And we get to see his new suit. Well, like the making of his new suit. We don't quite see it just yet. But he's like getting comfortable with his powers and stuff, and like shooting all over the city and everything. And then he's up on this really, really tall building, and he jumps off, and this is kind of where we get to see the suit. But he's got like his hoodie on still and his shorts. So it's super cool. I really like the way they did his intro type thing, or at least with the suit, and like him becoming comfortable with it. So he like jumps off the building and just like flying, and then uses the little web shooter.
Yeah.
And while he's doing that, the other Spideys are like working on a plan and everything.
So like it's this really tall building, and Kingpin is having a party there, and the collider is underneath it.
Mm-hmm. And it's ironic because Kingpin's the one that killed Spider-Man, but he's throwing the Spider-Man celebration gala thing.
Yeah.
And so all of the Spider-Men decide that they're going to go in there because all the waiters are dressed up as spider people.
He's like, is it too easy? Yeah, it is.
Yeah. But then, of course, Peter sees MJ, and they get the little awkward interaction and everything.
I loved it. It's so cute.
It was funny. And then we see Doc Ock down in the basement under the building, booting up the collider, getting it ready and everything. And all the spider people get down there, and they're getting ready to stop the collider. And, of course, the fighting starts. And during the fighting, Miles shows up to help. And it's really cool because they like fight as the collider is on, and it's bringing all these other worlds into this world. And so it's like multi-dimensional, and there's buildings flying all over the place that they're fighting over and everything. And it's like 20 minutes, this little fight thing. But I never really know how to explain fights.
It's just a big fight sequence right here.
It's a big fight. Like, I don't know. But so they have the drive ready, and they're like getting ready to shut down the collider. So they start saying their goodbyes and everything. So Penny Parker and Spider-Man Noir and Peter Porker, which is Spider-Ham, all say their goodbyes. And Gwen's about to say Gwen says her goodbye as well. Hers is a little bit longer because she had a little bit more of an interaction with them. And then Peter is about to go back, and he's like starting to say his goodbye, but Kingpin interrupts, and then we get another big huge fight between Miles and Peter and Kingpin. And then like during that, Miles like makes Peter go into the collider to go home.
He's like, go.
Yeah. He's like, I got this. And then they're like on this little subway train thing.
Yeah.
Fighting, and the family is like glitching in and out because that's who they're like trying to get. That's who the DNA sequence is pinned on. So it's like they're glitching in and out as it's trying to bring them in, and they see Kingpin fighting. And
it's like the same thing all over again.
Yeah. So of course he loses them because they like try and run somehow.
Yeah. And while this is all like as Kingpin's fighting Miles, his dad has actually shown up.
Yeah, his dad is down there watching. And he's actually like rooting on Spider-Man. He doesn't know that this Spider-Man is Miles.
He's like, oh, Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah. And Kingpin does the same move, like the same smash thing that he did on Peter, this world's Peter. He does that to Miles. And at first you think, no, like this is not happening again, but Miles gets up.
And he zaps Kingpin.
Uh-huh. He's like, bet you didn't know Spider-Man had that power.
It's like, yeah. And he's trying to get to this green button he has to push.
Yep.
And he pushes it.
Yeah, he throws Kingpin into it. He's like, hey, Kingpin, push the button for me.
Yeah.
And so it stops the collider and is like sucking everything in. And then it explodes. And Miles thinks that his dad died because of the explosion, but he was able to get out. Like, he was up and stuff. And so Miles calls his dad and is like talking to him. And his dad's like trying to tell him about Aaron. And he's like, yeah, I already know. You don't have to, like... He understands stuff like that. And then he hangs up. And then he goes to talk to his dad as Spider-Man. And it's funny, he, like, makes his voice deeper.
He's trying to, like, be incognito, in a sense.
Yeah.
And he gives him a hug. I love it.
Yeah. And he goes, I love you. Like, oh my god. And then we get the intro for Miles as Spider-Man.
Well, you missed that he had put Kingpin in these webs.
Oh, yeah. I forgot he hung Kingpin up.
He's like, here you go.
Yeah, I got a present for you. And then we get the Miles Spider-Man intro.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the end of that. It actually it's super fast-paced, so you don't really notice.
That is 2 hours.
Yeah, there's not really any downtime.
Not really, no.
Like, the downtime is right at the beginning when you're learning, like, who Miles is. Like, if you don't know who Miles Morales is, and you don't know that he eventually becomes another Spider-Man, you get that little bit of an intro. And so that's cool, and that's, like, the only kind of slow time. But still, even once they get you into that part, it goes super fast. So, it's a pretty quick movie for being 2 hours. So the music is by Daniel Pemberton. He is known for Steve Jobs from 2015, The Man from U.N.C.L.E. from 2015, Yesterday from 2019, The Counselor from 2013, and then, just because I love Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. He did the music for that as well.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think he did a good job on that music. His first ever credit, he worked on a TV show. He did 2 episodes of Globe Trekker in 1994. And then at the moment, he is currently working on Enola Holmes, which is going to be released this year. Not quite sure when or what that movie is about, but that will be released this year. And then he is also working on the sequel to this movie, which will be out in 2022. It's a lot of twos. Two. Spider-Verse 2 in 2022.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like, I like the music for the most part. I really did. Before the movie, I'd seen the movie, I actually knew one of the songs. I'll say that. I knew Sunflower.
Oh. Okay.
That's the very first song you hear that he's listening to.
Yeah.
My students were like, Miss, you gotta hear this song. I'm like,
Yeah.
Sunflower? I'm like, Post Malone. They're like, yeah, hear it. I'm like, it's from
Yeah.
Spider-Man. I'm like, okay. So I listened to it. I was like, oh my god, this is awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, this is an awesome little song. It's only like 2 minutes long. It's great.
Yeah, it's like his mellow out song. I do like that song a lot. But I don't think that the composer did that. I'm pretty sure it was just Post Malone that did that, and then he asked for permission to use it in the movie. Like, Post Malone wrote it for the movie, I think.
Yes, he did.
But yeah, I think the music was really well done in this. I don't remember there being a point where I was annoyed with the music. Which is a good thing. Like, if I get annoyed by the music, I will voice it.
I know.
Comparison. I really like in this how much they hint at the other movies. Like, there's so many references to the other Spider-Man movies, which is funny. But I don't really know much to compare it to, other than, like, pointing out, you know, the Spider-Man video game suit that was in there, the references to the other Spider-Man movies. But I don't know enough about Spider-Man to know about this, so I don't really have any comparisons.
I was like, yeah, I mean, it just takes, like, just, like, little things from the different Spider-Man movies. Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh, that's from that one, or that's from that one.
Yeah. I thought it was cool that they did the train thing where he's, like, trying to stop the subway train with the spider webs on the building.
I was like, I know that
Spider-Man
one.
2? Wasn't it Spider-Man 2? Pretty sure.
Yeah, it's one of those, yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was really cool. So, do you have any trivia?
I'm looking. There's a lot. Do you have any?
No, I don't, actually.
I was like, I did mention one where they held off on it, like, doing, like, the standard, like, comic book stuff after he got bitten.
Yeah.
It's like, and I noticed, too, the difference, like, animation style between Miles and Peter Parker. Like, at the beginning, there's a difference.
Yeah.
You can tell. His is a little bit more comic booky. But then as it's going on, you see the change, too, of Miles. So I appreciated it.
Yeah, because you see him, like, growing into being Spider-Man.
And it showed it with the animation, which I loved.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. Oh, there was one I wanted to say. Where is it? So this took over 180 animators to do, which is a lot. That's the biggest one Sony's had.
With the amount of detail in this movie and the amount of times that the animation changes, I believe it.
Yeah, over 180. I was like, oh shit. That is a lot. And so, since the style of animation, there's usually, like, normal animation, there's only about 24 images per second. This one is way slowed down. There's only 12. It's cut in half. So there's not a blur at all.
Except for when they purposefully do it.
Purposely do it, but they did that on purpose.
Yeah.
So that was cool. I'm just trying to think of, like, animation ones.
Well, yeah, because this one is...
It's so up there. I mean...
This one won... Like, this is the most awarded for its animation.
And it was, like, just with that, it beat out... It's, like, the first one to beat out both Disney, Pixar, all of them out.
Yeah.
Like, because it definitely deserves it.
Yeah. And this is truly not Disney, because Disney does not own the rights to Spider-Man. Sony owns the rights to Spider-Man.
Yes, they do.
They just lend out Spider-Man for the Marvel movies. Like, that's the only reason he was in Endgame or Infinity War, is because they lent him out to Disney for the Marvel movies.
Huh. That's interesting. So this is... It's his full-length movie. Like, this is his first big animated one. Like, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Because there's just the TV shows animated ones, but this is the full-length one. Animated.
Yeah.
The first one.
I think that's why Sony gave out the PlayStation Plus free tickets, is because it was such a big deal and they really wanted people to go see it. Is because it was the first time he actually had a theatrical full-length film that was not live action. It's an animated one, so they really wanted people to go see it and enjoy it. And they did, because we're getting another one in 2 years.
I was like, if it's the same type of animation style and everything, I'm totally in.
Oh, I'm sure it will be. I'm just curious what the story is going to be.
Yeah. Oh, this is funny. I remember that. So when I first watched this, like the Spider Ham, I'm like, he looked like Porky Pig.
Yeah.
And so it even says in the movie, he says Porky Pig's line, and they're like, "Can you really say that?" Which cracked me up, like, because they did that on purpose to make him look like Porky Pig. I'm like, oh my gosh. They probably got the
permission for
it. I was like, you gotta get it. I'm like, is you sure you can get that? Yeah, there's not much else I can say.
Okay.
I was like, I want to talk more about the animation, but...
Oh, I will say there was a Spider-Ham short on the Blu-ray.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. It was cute. I don't remember it exactly. Because I watched it right after we got this, and that was probably that was like over a year ago now when it came out and we got it. So I've only seen it the one time, but I remember it was funny. It's definitely worth seeing. I think it's like maybe 20 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's just I think it's the Spider-Ham short is what I think it's called. And it's funny.
That's cute.
But yeah. So favorite line.
Let me count. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I got 6.
Okay.
This is Stanley talking to Miles about, about the Spider-Man costume. And he's like, can I return it if it doesn't fit? And Stan says, it always fits, eventually.
Yeah.
Like, ugh, good line.
Which is, like, foreshadowing because the suit that he does use later fits perfectly, even though it was meant for an adult.
Exactly. This is Mary Jane, if I remember correctly. We all have powers of one kind or another.
Yeah, I think that was Mary Jane.
This is Miles. He's like, making you feel guilty? Is it working? He's pouting.
He's pouting.
Spider-Man doesn't wear a cape.
Yeah, but then there's a suit. There is a suit later in the Spidey cave that has a cape, and he's like, cape.
He's like, cape. Then you're the best of all of us, Miles. Just keep going. Yeah. And this is probably my favorite. The hardest thing about this job is you can't save everyone.
Yeah, I wrote that one down too. So when he's talking to the first Peter, the Peter from his world, he's like, I don't want to be Spider-Man. And he's like, Peter's like, I don't think you have a choice, kiddo. The one that I was saving that was hilarious in the graveyard when the police are chasing him. They go, looks like a child dressed like Spider-Man dragging a homeless corpse behind a train. I crack up every time.
It's like, what?
Yeah. Why did I get stuck with the janky old broke hobo Spider-Man? When he's trying to get, when Peter's trying to get Miles to relax to get off to stop sticking to the ceiling. I am in the moment. It's a terrible moment. That one that you said, that you can't save everyone. And then, I think I have 2 more. That's all it is, Miles. A leap of faith. Oh, now I have 2 more, sorry. Miles does this, like, super awesome fall between the buildings thing in the crazy fight scene. And Peter's like, I taught him that. Or he asks Gwen, did you teach him that? And she goes, I didn't teach him that. And you definitely didn't teach him that. And then my last one. Anyone could wear the mask. You could wear the suit. Just want you to know that. That's Miles talking about how anyone can be Spider-Man type thing. But I think my two favorites are That's All It Is, Miles, A Leap of Faith, and then the hardest thing about this job is you can't save everyone.
It is your movie, so
Yeah.
it's your choice.
We'll do the hardest thing about this job is you can't always save everyone. So, what is your rating?
I'm giving this a 9. I am.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was highly surprised I gave it that myself, actually. Because I'm like, what am I going to give this? And then I was just like, so freaking just blown away by it. I was like, okay, you know what? This is going up. It's fitting with those 9s.
Yeah.
I was like, I rarely give it 10. So I'm like, it's a 9 for me for sure. Just because it fits there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I loved it. I did. I can't wait to watch it again.
Yeah. It's such a good movie. I love this movie. I like watching it all the time. Sean likes to watch it with me too. I told him I was watching this. He's like, oh yeah, I'll watch it with you. Because he loves this movie. I also gave it a 9. And not because I found anything wrong with it. It's just it really fit in with my 9s. It's just where it fell. So. But I do love this movie a lot. I love the animation. The voice acting is all great. I love the story and the variety of Spider-Man that we get to see. Because there are so many of them. So it was really cool to see them like kind of all come in and be in the same movie. And then I loved all the references to all the other Spider-Man movies. So, yeah, this one is a 9 for me. So, our next film is the last one for this year's superhero event, and it is Avengers Endgame. So we will see you in just a bit for that one. Bye.
Bye.